Israel confronts a critical challenge as its air defense resources strain under recent attacks from Hezbollah's drone arsenal. This comes as Israel vows to punish Iran as the Biden administration continues to back and at the same time nudge its ally. Here's more.
Israel is fighting battles on multiple fronts. Israel is using deadly force. The Hezbollah is proving to be a tough adversary for Israeli forces. They are continuously raining rockets and drones. Sunday's drone attack on the Golani Brigade's base, penetrating 64 kilometers into Israeli territory, killing 4 soldiers and injuring over 60 others, highlights a critical gap in Israel's defenses.
Drones are unlike rockets. They fly on a different flight path. They can move in different directions during their flight. They tend to go lower to the ground. They are slower and smaller than rockets and missiles. Taken together, this can make them much harder to detect. In fact, sometimes they're even mistaken as birds.
Israel's multi-layered air defense network has been pushed to its limits. Since October 7th, over 20,000 rockets and missiles have been launched at Israel from Gaza and Lebanon, stretching the country's Interceptor stockpiles thin. Israel's multi-layered system includes the Iron Dome used to shoot down short-range missiles, David Sling used to intercept medium-range missiles, and the Arrow system, which is designed to intercept long-range ballistic missiles. To further bolster Israeli defenses, Washington has dispatched its advanced anti-missile system THAAD along with 100 US troops to operate them. Israel's ability to shoot down incoming projectiles could be further tested when it decides to launch its long-promised retaliation against Iran, which has vowed to hit back hard. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that Israel won't allow US to dictate the terms of the attack. However, Netanyahu has reportedly reassured the White House that Israel was only contemplating targeting military sites. Biden administration has publicly warned Israel against striking Iran's nuclear or oil facilities in order to avoid a broader war. The big question is, when and how will Israel strike back? Bureau Report, WION World is One.
For more on this, we're being joined by James J. Marlowe, foreign and defense analyst expert on West Asia from London. Thank you so much for joining us on WION. In your opinion, is Israel on the back foot, given that their air defense system, especially the Iron Dome, is no longer infallible?
Well, I wouldn't say it's on the back foot. There is a difference over here, and your report, which I caught some of it, is quite comprehensive, and it's pretty much on the mark. So there is a difference between rockets, ballistic rockets, Scuds, and the UAVs, which is what Israel has received from Lebanon, more than 1,000 of them in the last year. And it is a different way of coming in. Now, this particular UAV that hit the army base a couple of days ago and killed 4 soldiers and injured, actually, we know it's 58. Some of them are in serious condition. Initially appeared on the radar, then it disappeared from the radar, and then it came back on the radar. So it's very difficult for Israel to actually track these down because, as the report said, sometimes they can be mistaken for large birds. So Israel needs to get more experience. And when it was dealing with Hamas in Gaza and Islamic Jihad, it never really had the sort of problem that it's having right now with Hezbollah. But nevertheless, Israel will get on top of it. It will understand it. It's working with the Americans to try and get a grip on this. And as the report also said as well, Israel does intend to respond once again to Iran, of which Iran has said it will respond to Israel. And they're expecting more UAVs, more cruise missiles, more ballistic missiles, and therefore that's the reason why the Americans will send troops in to Israel to help them use a special battery system to actually include it inside the overall Israeli defense system.
Very interesting. There are reports that Israel is now running short on missiles in particular, and therefore the U.S., as you mentioned, had to rush in with these THAAD to bolster the Israeli forces. Is this going to impact the war in the coming days?
You know, it's difficult to predict what's going to happen in the coming days because, of course, Israel reserves the right to go ahead and hit back at Iran at its choosing. And at this time, they're in the middle of the Jewish High Holy Days. In fact, the Jewish High Holy Days have just finished, and they're just about to go into another 8-day Jewish holiday. So it may or may not be during this time. It may be after the Jewish holiday. That's down to the military. With the actual political established government, the elected government will decide when and where is the right time to do this. But of course, this is a celebratory time for the Israelis and Jewish people all over the world. And many of them will be outside of their homes. But Israel is fighting on 7 different fronts. Again, your report, which was very comprehensive, suggested many fronts, 7 different fronts. And just in the last couple of days, UAVs have come in from Iraq, from Yemen, and also, of course, from Lebanon. We had the attack from Iran. Israel, of course, is still getting missiles and UAVs coming from Gaza, and there's still heavy fighting taking place in Gaza, and especially in northern Gaza, where Hamas is regrouping, which is what some of the media are covering right now. And of course, it's very important to emphasize 101 hostages. Probably maybe as many as half of them are dead, so they're holding the bodies. But still, we believe many of them are still alive. They're still being held in the terror dungeons, probably in southern Gaza, not far away from Hamas's leader, Sinwar. So there's fighting taking place over there. There's also many attacks coming from Judea and Samaria, what the world calls the West Bank. There is Hamas and Islamic Jihad, which is very strong over there. The Palestinian Authority, the PLO, doesn't have very much control, doesn't have very much power these days under Mahmoud Abbas. So there are attacks are happening there. Of course, there was another terrorist attack earlier on today where it was one person was killed. It was a policeman, actually, and many others were shot. So that is the situation. And I think also I mentioned Syria as well. So that's the 7 fronts. So this is obviously been going on for 1 year. How much longer is it going to go on to? Well, the Gaza situation could certainly go on for another year, because unless Israel gets full control of Gaza and it actually stops the military threat from Gaza into Israel, that's Hamas and Islamic Jihad, the Israeli troops are not going to leave there, which means if Hezbollah decide to continue hitting Israel, northern Israel, and even the whole of Israel with missiles backed up by Iran, then this could actually develop into something much larger, which is what the world has been saying.
Right, and something that we've all been fearing. Thank you so much for that thorough analysis, Mr. James Marlowe. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Thank you very much.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.